I wish some of you didn't raise your hands up when he asked the question, did you enjoy lunch? Because I know if you had enjoyed lunch, you'll probably end up sleeping half the session here, right? But anyway, all right, look, I'd like to just give you a little bit of a business context today before we get started on the topic that we want to focus, right? Just some level setting. Ever since the advent of ChatGPT, a good 18 months back now, every industry in its vertical, every organization is almost rapidly looking at opportunities to accelerate business differentiation, right? Business differentiation through AI-powered capabilities, business differentiation, value creation, productivity, efficiency benefits through the use of generative AI. When ChatGPT came about, there's almost this notion about think big, start small. But now it's about scale quick. Scale quick means organizations are transforming the products and services they build using AI and generative capabilities to move from prototyping to productization. From small-scale pilots to scaling across enterprise workforce. That's where the opportunity and the challenges are. Specifically, since the topic today is about cyber impact, there are almost two sides of the coin. One, AI and ML rapid acceleration has created new attack surfaces for adversaries that we need to think about managing. Second, it's also created opportunities for us in the cyber world to use AI, to use generative AI, to use machine learning to drive exponential, I would say, capabilities and value creation of a cyber offerings, almost using AI for AI. So we'll look at both these paradigms because I think it's really important to get those aspects kind of ironed out, right? So this is just a indication of the sentiments that I kind of mentioned. The race across industries. And I can tell you, we are from commercial real estate. It's a very large organization, 130,000 people, 30 billion. The way we looked at AI is really in a very simplistic way. Efficiency driven, differentiation driven. What are the use cases where we can quickly drive productivity in a workplace? Example, contract procurement. Can we use generative AI for auto redlining? In finance, can we use co-pilots for reconciliations? In the tech world, can we use co-pilots for code refactoring? In the marketing world, could we create immersive experiences from text to video, from text to imaging? Productivity driven. Then comes the differentiation angle. How do I create productized offering that can supplement revenue streams? And don't get me wrong, AI and ML has been there for 5 decades. If you're driving a Tesla car, you're already using deep learning. If you're using Netflix, you're already using predictive analytics. Generative AI per se has not really started to create that much of an impact on differentiation-driven use cases. Yes, for productivity and efficiency, no doubt. Why do I say that? But of course, the large language models are rapidly evolving. The amount of data we can bring in, the amount of reinforced learning we can do with the data, the amount of context we can bring in is exponentially growing, and it'll create differentiation. So example, in the commercial real estate, let's say I want to give back energy efficiency to our clients. I don't know how many of you know this. In industrial settings, chillers consume the largest energy factors. They consume the largest percentile of any operating building energy. Can I use AI ML to optimize energy spend? Can I use AI ML to understand office visit rates, occupancy data to drive energy efficiency. That is differentiation. Can generative AI help? Probably. So first, I think it's really important to understand that organizations, each one of us in this room, I'm pretty sure we are at some level of we are past the crawl phase. We are almost, some of us are in the walk phase, some of us are in the run phase of embracing generative AI. And the impacts across industries are immense. Whenever new technology emerges, there's always this question of hype or transformation. I can assure you here that generative AI is not one of those metaverse hypes or the blockchain hypes. It is real. It is creating impact across industries, all the way from clinical trials to predicting exposures to chronic illnesses based on lifestyles, all the way from personalized shopping, all the way from generating culinary recipes. It's impacting every industry. And that has to be recognized. Because our conversation today, it ties back to this. Right. Last week I was in a Gartner Data and Analytics Summit talking about some of the topics related here. There was an interesting study done for, I think it's across 300 large Fortune, I would say, very large organizational clients, looking at how the impact of AI investment is. And if you look at, I don't know how many of you follow earning calls, earning debriefs. And there's a statistic that in the last 12 months, in the earnings calls, at least 8 out of 10 earnings call, there's a mention of AI. That means AI is now not a technology enabler. It is a business transformational effort. So organizations are continuing to invest rapidly in AI. Now, what does that mean to cyber? And if there are any CISOs here, so I'm the global CTO for CBRE, the CISO rolls into me. So I know some of the challenges we face there. One is everybody wants to bring in the new AI ML product offering. We want to roll out Copilot. We want to bring text to video capabilities, text to imaging capabilities. We want to bring in GenAI models, Anthrop to cloud, to open source models in Llama, to create models. We want to pilot. We want to go fast. And from a security perspective, if you look at, there's not even enough cycles to do a triage and a risk assessment because there's such a business appetite to rapidly accelerate. Now, you are the CISO wondering, hey, how do I now bring a little bit of sanity to what's happening? And this is a real statistics. If you look at the percentage of generative AI initiatives that have actually gone through a security triage or a valid, typically how you would do in your traditional world of risk assessment. That's changing. So how do I tackle this problem? And let's dive deep into that. Look, I like to make this very simple. We've always talked in AI, ML, GenAI about hallucinations, data issues, privacy issues. But let me take a step back. Let's look at what's happening. Firstly, what are the new attack surfaces from a technology perspective? Then we'll look at the compliance, privacy, ethics part of it. Let's start with the technology perspective. Have you heard this? Probably someone saying prompt engineering is the new coding language. The whole world of GenAI is centered around prompt engineering. If you do not know how to write good prompts, you can't extract the value of generative AI. As a, if it's finance, you're doing a reconciliation, or let's say, you are in a research team, you want to summarize hundreds of research documents into an investor report. If you do not know to write the prompts, your results as effective as how good your prompts are. Now, prompt engineering is a new attack class. Attackers can use prompt engineering to mine out sensitive, confidential information. I'll give you a classic example. Let's say you built a generative AI capability to chat with repos. Let's say you're indexing hundreds of SharePoint repos. You want the ability for your particular function in your business to interact with data. Imagine if I have not factored the input-output validations appropriately, someone could type in a prompt saying, hey, show me the latest executive pay reports. Right? Because you're indexing content. Prompt engineering can be an attack class as an internal employee as well. It's not necessarily it's an external entity. And we'll come to some of the pieces. How do we tackle that? That's a new attack class now. Now, then you have, in my view, my dear friends, machine learning models is going to be a new intellectual property class. Why do I say that? Any product differentiation you're creating for the business is based upon the ML models you're building. You're bringing in data from multiple platforms, data platforms, analytics store, structured data, unstructured data. You're creating ML models. All the way from data preparation, data wrangling, and building model training to delivering models at pace, at scale. How well protected are our ML models? Remember, your ML models are trained on your data. So if you're looking at ingesting data, your models are as good as the data it ingests. That's why we say in the world of AI, is your data AI ready? Any machine learning model is as good as the data that you ingest. Imagine if the data ingestion pipelines were to be poisoned with inappropriate data. If you're running fraud detection, your entire fraud detection can be skewed if you have data poisoning that happens in your data ingestion pipelines. So machine learning is a new intellectual property class. I need to think about all the way from your data prep to a model delivery, how does my security controls flow with it? And how do you tackle that? I'll talk about it. I mean, we have less time, so I don't know how many of you have invested in ML ops. Some of us, we grew doing ML ops in open source. But today, your ML ops platform being vendor agnostic, I don't want to call any vendors out. ML ops, if you really have built good ML ops platforms, the way for you to really assure you is to build your security and compliance controls in the ML ops platform. The way you ingest, the way you do checks, the way you enforce security controls, the way you enforce RAG, retrieval augmented generations. Because ultimately, your LLM models works on RAGs. They go to a vector database or another data, pick up data. How do you enforce controls? Where do you plug in those controls? Your best place, your best fitment there is your MLOps platform, right? As you build ML models. So there are ways you need to think about. Now that means as cyber professionals, security professionals, we need to come beyond just being focused on the world of security to understanding how digital and technology products and services really work and how do we integrate AI ML services into our offerings. So data poisoning and of course deepfakes. I'm pretty sure you saw the news on WPP and a few others. Deepfakes is an extremely rapidly emerging social engineering class. We are moving away from, or rather, phishing emails will still remain. We are now moving to another risk vector of deepfakes. Imagine you're a finance group who takes into account receivables and stuff. Imagine if a CFO along with a group does a group call and you're sitting amidst and you've been instructed to transfer funds and stuff. You're going to take the bait because it's so overwhelming. It's a natural conversation and looks natural, looks like the people whom you know. How do you protect organizations against deep fakes? So these are the technology-related risks that are emerging. And of course, we've always talked about privacy, ethical impact, hallucination. And the interesting part is today, if you use LLMs, the OpenAIs or whatnot, you get referencing, right? Traceability. But remember that traceability is generated from an LLM itself. So you're not really solving your hallucination problem. Okay? So these are the different attack classes. Now, what do we do about this? Again, I don't want to get into too much details, but I'll just call out some broader themes. Firstly, you want the ability to have visibility across your enterprise. What are generative AI services, LLM services your enterprise uses? Are my employees going out there to Bing Chat? Are my employees going out there to Vertex AI? What are some of the LLM Gen AI services that are used beyond what enterprises deliver? You need to have the visibility. How do I enforce prompt engineering policies? If someone is writing a prompt that is malicious, can I get a Clippy experience? What's a Clippy experience? We've all used to the Office Clippy. Prompts say, hey, look, you're writing this prompt. This seems malicious, and we're going to block you from writing this prompt. Right? Create that experience at the point of usage using prompt policies. Right? So that's one way to look at it. Especially when it comes to, I think I already touched on it, on the whole MLOps security, we need to go beyond DevSecOps. We need to look at MLOps security now. And the best way is to integrate your controls, your model validation. Hey, we do red teaming in organizations. We do red teaming of our crown jewel apps. Have you guys done red teaming on ML models? Now, we need to slightly shift our approach to do the validations, right? And data integrity, data quality checks is going to become extremely paramount even in the world of security. Doesn't matter your data governance program is not mature enough. Even if it is running ML powered, use ML for ML. Have your data checks done using ML, even if it's a bunch of SQL rules. Create ML offerings to go and check your data quality checks, integration, making sure the data sources are validated before the models are created. There are easier, cost-effective ways for addressing these problems. And then going back to my earlier comment about at an enterprise setting, no longer can we spend 5 days in doing a triage for AI ML and for the business to wait. No. Those days of periodic assessments are gone. So how do you triage ML assessments? What you need to do is create a library of certified models that you've pre-assessed. Hey, this is my catalog of pre-assessed LLMs. You pick from this. And these are the catalogs of APIs that have been already pre-certified for you to consume. We need to think about a way for business to be more agile, more, I would say, in terms of velocity, by reducing, truncating some of our traditional cyber practices. We need to work towards that. So that's a little bit, of course, NIST, RMF framework, that's great, but you need to think about lightweight frameworks. All right. I'm not going to, this is something you should take away. We've done something internally on this. We've looked at all the threat vectors in an AI ML setting. What kind of LLM does it apply? Is it for open source LLM, commercial LLMs, whatnot? What security controls would work? As an example, if you look at, I don't know how much visible is it, if you look at hallucination, applies to all LLM models, and the control for hallucination is RAG. Why is it RAG? Because hallucination depends upon your data source validity. If I'm using retrieval augmented generation for my vector databases, have I done some validations on those to prevent hallucination? So again, we all are learning together here. But this is something our team spent a lot of time to understand. What are the threat vectors? What controls could we design to operate as we are scaling AI in the company? This is my last slide here. I know I've signaled 5 minutes. Again, I like to make things a little bit simple. For me, everything in the cyber world is about 3 things. How do you prevent incidents? How do you limit damage? How do you respond and recover? All your NIST and your IS is great. But if I'm having a board conversation, I want to make sure my board is able to understand my program. Now, we talked about the risk. What is the innovation? What are the opportunities? If I talk about prevent incidents, look, we have always used predictive threat intel. That's not a differentiator because of GenAI. And that's why I've classified them as predictive AI or GenAI. Don't get confused if someone says, hey, now the GenAI, now we know predictive AI has always been there. Machine learning models have always been there. But let's understand what are the GenAI differentiators. So this is a GenAI differentiators, auto remediation. Imagine in your code, as developers are writing code, you have a copilot built in that tells you to refactor, that helps you to refactor code, that helps you to fix legacy code, removing numerous volumes of inherent legacy security issues you had in your code. That's great. What about automated testing? You want to do red teaming, you want to do pen test? Let me tell you, you could use GenAI to author test cases. Imagine you would have 3 days spent by a security guru to write a pen test case for a particular exploit. You could generate author test cases using GenAI, not just in the security world. By the way, we can do that in quality engineering. We are doing that. You could generate unit test cases. You could generate functional test cases using GenAI for test authoring. Imagine the productivity value. If I go to limit damage, one of the biggest complaints we get from our product teams is there's too much of friction. We have been asked to fix 100 different issues across 10 different tools. We do not know how to prioritize. Bring all of the data together, bring all of the tooling together, bring exploitability together, tell them using GenAI, you could prioritize and profiles, hey, go and fix these 3 things before your release pass. All you need to do is fix these 3 for your release to pass. Aggregate and prioritize using GenAI LLMs. Great value proposition. I'll pick one on the respond and recover. I'm pretty sure CISOs in the room, if there are any, you hit whenever there's a new ransomware malware, the first thing your CEO or the board say, hey, what is our exposure? How exposed are we? Now you need to phone up, get all the reports, pick the vulnerability data, pick the asset data, so much of running around. Imagine if you built NLQ using GenAI and you've integrated all your CMDBs, your VMDBs and whatnot, running queries. Hey, this is how am I exposed to Neo4j? I'm just picking an example. Show me the list of assets there are. Imagine the experience and the impact it can have by creating natural language querying and introducing that in your SecOps. Risk report generation, summarization, great use cases for efficiency. So look, again, this is a flavor, my dear friends. I've not gone into the depths because of the essence of time. We could have lots of conversations on these. But at least gives you a flavor of the opportunities that GenAI specific. Let's not mix up ML model predict. We want to make sure that that's understood clearly because AI ML has been there for a while. What has GenAI bringing to the table? So these are some of the opportunities GenAI brings to the table. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all that I had for today. Okay.